Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn English with Podcast. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Tony. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Today, we have a fun and interesting topic. We're going to talk about camping.
Yes, camping is such a great way to enjoy nature and relax. And of course, it's a perfect topic to improve your English.
That's right, Tony. So, let's get started. First, we'll share our experiences with camping. Then we'll have some special guests telling their own stories.
Sounds great. Nikki, do you want to start with your camping experience?
Sure, I'd love to. I remember my first camping trip very well. I was about 12 years old and my family decided to go camping in the mountains. It was a big adventure for me.
Wow, 12 years old. That must have been exciting. What did you like the most about it?
Oh, I loved sleeping in a tent and listening to the sounds of nature. It was so peaceful. And of course, we had a campfire every night. We roasted marshmallows and told stories.
That sounds amazing, Nikki. I also love campfires. They are the best part of camping, I think.
I agree, Tony. How about you? Do you have a camping story to share?
Yes, I do. My favorite camping trip was with my friends. We went to a big forest. We packed our bags with food, drinks, and of course, our tents.
Oh, a trip with friends. That must have been fun. What did you do there?
We did so many things. We hiked during the day, looking at all the beautiful trees and animals. At night, we sat around the campfire, talking and laughing. We even tried to fish in the river, but we weren't very good at it. We didn't catch anything.
That's funny, Tony. But it's all about having fun, right? Did anything funny or interesting happen during your trip?
Yes. Actually, one night, we heard a strange noise outside our tent. We were a little scared. We thought it might be a bear. But when we looked outside, it was just a raccoon trying to get into our food bag. We laughed so much after that.
That's hilarious. Raccoons are so sneaky.
Yes, they are. Camping is full of surprises, isn't it?
Absolutely, Tony. It's all part of the adventure. So, listeners, now you've heard about our camping experiences. Camping can be a lot of fun, but it's important to be prepared and know what to do.
That's right, Nikki. And today we're going to learn a lot of useful English words and phrases related to camping. Plus, we have some great guests who will share their own camping stories.
Yes, we do. We hope you're ready for some great camping stories. It's time to introduce our first guest.
Yes. Our first guest today is Michelle. She has a wonderful story to share about her camping trip. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're happy to have you, Michelle. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before you share your camping story?
Sure. My name is Michelle, and I'm from Australia. I love traveling and exploring new places. Camping is one of my favorite activities.
That's great, Michelle. So, tell us about your camping trip. Where did you go and who did you go with?
Well, last year I went camping with my two best friends, Lisa and Mark. We went to a beautiful national park in Australia called Kakadu National Park. It was amazing.
Wow, Kakadu National Park. That sounds fantastic. What did you do there?
We did so many things. We hiked to see waterfalls, swam in natural pools, and even saw some wildlife. One day, we saw a kangaroo and a crocodile.
A crocodile? That must have been scary.
Yes, it was a bit scary, but we were safe. We saw it from a distance. The park rangers told us to be careful and stay away from the water at certain times.
Good advice. Did you have any funny or interesting moments during your trip?
Yes, actually. One night, we decided to cook dinner over the campfire. We brought some sausages and marshmallows. But when we started cooking, it began to rain heavily.
Oh no! What did you do?
We tried to cover the fire with a tarp, but it didn't work very well. So, we ended up eating cold sausages and marshmallows in the tent. We laughed a lot about it later.
That's a great story, Michelle. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but it makes the trip memorable, right?
Exactly, Nikki. It was all part of the fun, and we had a great time despite the rain.
Michelle, do you have any tips for our listeners who want to go camping?
Yes, definitely. Always check the weather before you go. Bring enough food and water and make sure you have a good tent. And most importantly, enjoy the nature around you.
Great tips, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was really interesting.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
We sure did. So, Nikki, what did you think of Michelle's story?
I thought it was wonderful. I loved how she shared her experience of hiking, swimming, and seeing wildlife. It really shows how diverse camping activities can be. And the part about cooking in the rain was funny.
Yes, that was funny. It's always good to hear about how people handle unexpected situations. Michelle also used some great vocabulary like waterfalls, natural pools, and wildlife. These are useful words for our listeners to learn.
Absolutely, Tony. And the tip about checking the weather is so important. It can really make or break a camping trip. I also liked her advice about bringing enough food and water and having a good tent.
Yes, a good tent is essential. I remember when I went camping with my friends, our tent was really good, and it made the trip much more comfortable.
Right, Tony. So, listeners, remember these tips and vocabulary when you go camping. And now, let's introduce our next guest. Our next guest is John. Hi, John. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to share my camping story.
We're excited to hear it, John. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, my name is John and I'm from Canada. I love the outdoors and go camping as often as I can.
That's awesome, John. So, where did you go on your camping trip, and who did you go with?
Last summer, I went camping with my family in Banff National Park. It's one of the most beautiful places in Canada.
Banff National Park is gorgeous. What did you do during your trip?
We did a lot of hiking and took many photos of the mountains and lakes. We also went canoeing on Lake Louise. The water was so clear and blue.
Canoeing sounds fun. Did you have any memorable moments?
Yes, one night we saw the Northern Lights. It was incredible. We all sat around the campfire and watched the sky light up with beautiful colors.
Wow, the Northern Lights. That must have been amazing. Did you have any challenges during your trip?
Yes, actually. One night, we had a visit from a curious bear. It came close to our campsite looking for food.
A bear? That's a bit scary. What did you do?
We stayed calm and made loud noises to scare it away. It worked, and the bear left. We made sure to keep all our food in bear-proof containers after that.
That's a good lesson for everyone. Always be careful with food when camping in areas with wildlife.
Definitely. It was a bit scary, but it's important to respect wildlife and be prepared.
Thanks for sharing your story, John. It sounds like you had an amazing adventure. Any tips for our listeners?
Sure. Always plan ahead, respect nature, and bring a good camera to capture the beautiful moments. And don't forget to pack warm clothes, even in summer. It can get cold at night.
Great advice, John. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
So, Nikki, what did you think of John's story?
I thought it was fantastic, Tony. John had some really memorable experiences, like seeing the Northern Lights and dealing with a bear. Those are things you don't forget.
Definitely, Nikki. And he used some great vocabulary too, like canoeing, Northern Lights, and bear-proof containers. These words are really helpful for our listeners.
Yes, and John's tips were very practical. Planning ahead and respecting nature are so important when camping. And taking a good camera is a great idea to capture all those beautiful moments.
Absolutely, Nikki. So listeners, keep these tips and words in mind for your next camping trip.
We hope you enjoyed Michelle's and John's stories. Now, we have another exciting guest with us today. Please welcome Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. I'm excited to be here.
We're glad to have you, Ashley. Can you tell us a bit about yourself before you share your camping story?
Sure. My name is Ashley and I'm from the UK. I love nature and outdoor activities. Camping is one of my favourite things to do with my family.
That's wonderful, Ashley. So, where did you go on your camping trip, and who did you go with?
Last summer, I went camping with my husband and our 2 children. We went to the Lake District in England. It's a beautiful place with lots of lakes and hills.
The Lake District sounds amazing. What did you do there?
We did a lot of hiking and went kayaking on the lakes. The kids loved it. We also visited some small villages and tried local food.
That sounds lovely. Did anything funny or interesting happen during your trip?
Yes, actually. One evening we decided to have a barbecue. But when we were about to start, we realized we forgot to bring the charcoal.
Oh no! What did you do?
We tried to collect some dry wood and twigs to make a fire, but it was harder than we thought. Finally, a kind family camping nearby gave us some of their charcoal. We were so thankful.
That's so nice of them. Camping often brings out the best in people, don't you think?
Absolutely, Nikki. We ended up having a great barbecue and made new friends. It was one of the highlights of our trip.
That's a wonderful story, Ashley. It's great to hear how you turned a tricky situation into a positive experience. Do you have any tips for our listeners?
Yes, definitely. Always double-check your packing list. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Also, involve your kids in the activities. It makes the trip more enjoyable for everyone.
Great tips, Ashley. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was really interesting and helpful.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
We sure did. So, Nikki, what did you think of Ashley's story?
I thought it was fantastic. I loved hearing about the Lake District and how they made new friends during their trip. And it's always good to be reminded to double-check your packing list.
Yes, definitely. Ashley also used some great vocabulary like kayaking, barbecue, and charcoal. These are useful words for our listeners to learn.
Absolutely, Tony. And the tip about involving kids in activities is very important. It makes the trip more fun and memorable for everyone.
Right, Nikki. So, listeners, remember these tips and vocabulary when you go camping. Now, let's introduce our next guest. Our next guest is Carlos. Hi, Carlos. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to share my camping story.
We're excited to hear it, Carlos. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, my name is Carlos and I'm from Brazil. I love adventure and nature. I go camping often, especially in the mountains.
That's awesome, Carlos. So, where did you go on your camping trip and who did you go with?
Last year, I went camping with my cousin in the Chapada Diamantina National Park. It's a stunning place with waterfalls, caves, and beautiful landscape.
That sounds incredible. What did you do during your trip?
We did a lot of hiking and explored some caves. We also swam in natural pools and climbed a few hills to see the amazing views.
Exploring caves sounds like a real adventure. Did you have any memorable moments?
Yes, one day we found a hidden waterfall. It was amazing. We spent the whole afternoon there, swimming and relaxing. It felt like our own secret paradise.
Wow, a hidden waterfall. That must have been incredible. Did you face any challenges during your trip?
Yes, actually one night there was a big storm. Our tent almost blew away. We had to get up in the middle of the night to secure everything.
That sounds intense. How did you manage?
We used some ropes and extra stakes to secure the tent. It was a bit scary, but we managed to keep everything in place. The next morning, the weather was perfect again.
That's a great example of staying calm and dealing with challenges. Do you have any tips for our listeners?
Sure, always be prepared for the weather. Bring extra ropes and stakes for your tent. And don't forget to explore. You might find some hidden gems like we did.
Excellent advice, Carlos. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was really inspiring.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
So, Tony, what did you think of Carlos's story?
I thought it was amazing. Finding a hidden waterfall and exploring caves sounds like such an adventure. And dealing with a storm shows how important it is to be prepared when camping.
Absolutely, Tony. Carlos also used some great vocabulary like waterfalls, caves, and natural pools. These are great words for our listeners to learn.
Yes, and his tips about bringing extra ropes and stakes and being prepared for the weather are very practical.
Right, Tony. So, listeners, remember these tips and vocabulary when you go camping. We hope you enjoyed all the camping stories. Now, it's time for one of the most important parts of our podcast, learning some new vocabulary. Today, we're going to focus on 7 keywords related to camping.
Yes, these words will help you talk about your own camping experiences and understand others better. Let's get started with the first word.
Our first keyword is tent. A tent is a portable shelter made of fabric, which you use when camping. It has poles and ropes to keep it up. You sleep inside the tent to stay safe and dry.
Right, Nikki. For example, we set up our tent next to the lake. It's very important to have a good tent when you go camping. It protects you from rain, wind, and insects.
Exactly, Tony. Our second keyword is campfire. A campfire is a fire that you make outdoors when camping. You can use it to cook food, keep warm, or just enjoy the light and warmth in the evening.
Yes, Nikki. For example, we sat around the campfire and told stories. Remember, it's important to be safe when making a campfire. Always make sure it's completely out before you go to sleep.
Good advice, Tony. Our third keyword is hiking. Hiking means walking a long distance, usually in nature, for fun or exercise. It's a common activity when you go camping.
Right. For example, we went hiking to see the beautiful waterfalls. Hiking is a great way to explore nature and get some exercise.
Exactly. Our fourth keyword is wildlife. Wildlife refers to animals and plants that live in nature, especially those not controlled by humans. When camping, you often see different types of wildlife.
Yes, for example, we saw a lot of wildlife on our camping trip, including deer and birds. It's important to respect wildlife and keep a safe distance.
Very true, Tony. Our fifth keyword is kayaking. Kayaking is a water activity where you paddle a small boat called a kayak. It's a fun way to explore rivers and lakes.
For example, we went kayaking on the lake and saw beautiful fish. Kayaking can be very relaxing and gives you a great view of the water and surrounding nature.
That's right. Our sixth keyword is barbecue. A barbecue is a meal cooked on an open fire or grill. It's a popular activity when camping because it's simple and the food tastes great.
Yes. For example, we had a barbecue with sausages and marshmallows. Remember to bring everything you need for a barbecue, like charcoal and matches.
Exactly, Tony. And our final keyword is campsite. A campsite is a place where people set up their tents and stay overnight when camping. It usually has some facilities like toilets and water.
For example, we found a nice campsite near the river. Choosing a good campsite is important for a comfortable camping trip.
Great explanations, Tony. Let's quickly review our 7 keywords again. Tent, campfire, hiking, wildlife, kayaking, barbecue, and campsite.
And now, let's use them in sentences to practice. Listeners, you can repeat after us.
We set up our tent next to the lake.
We sat around the campfire and told stories.
We went hiking to see the beautiful waterfalls.
We saw a lot of wildlife on our camping trip, including deer and birds.
We went kayaking on the lake and saw beautiful fish.
We had a barbecue with sausages and marshmallows.
We found a nice campsite near the river.
Great job, everyone! Remember, practicing these words will help you improve your English and enjoy your camping trips even more.
Yes, and don't forget to use these words when you talk about camping with your friends or family. It's a great way to practice English and share your experiences.
That's all for today's episode of Learn English with Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our camping stories and learned some useful new words.
Thank you for listening, everyone. If you have any camping stories or tips, please share them with us. We'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to tune in next time for more fun and learning. And before we go, we want to remind you to practice your English every day. Listen to our podcast regularly to improve your language skills.
Yes, and please subscribe to our podcast, give us a like, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us create more episodes for you.
Thanks again, everyone. See you next time.
Goodbye.